Hi guys, I'm back again with another video of my latest journal, Jack the Ripper. I'm going to try and get through it pretty quick. It might take a bit longer than all my other journals because I have done like a ton of research. I've done lots of research on the internet and things like that, and I'd like to share that information with you if you want to find out a bit more about Jack the Ripper. But I will say I'm no historian, and some of my things could be incorrect, and I could have got some of my dates and names and things like that wrong, so I just want to put that out there. So it's all covered in like a black velvet. I didn't want to go over the top with this one. I just wanted to keep it simple. And as you can see on the boot plate, we've got Jack the Ripper and a bloody fingerprint, and this red dangle charm. So we'll get straight in. Oh no, sorry. And then we've got this Tim Holtz chain, which I've just added a few more on because it wasn't long enough. And then we've got a Tim Holtz found charm, because obviously all women who Jack the Ripper murdered were found. We've got like a little lantern, because back then they had lanterns in the dark. And then we just got like a razor, just one of them, like an axe, which obviously probably didn't use an axe, but that's the only thing that I could find that was kind of similar to something like that. And then just a couple of key charms added on, so it just clips off like so. So I'll just get straight into it. Sort me flipping lighting it because my lighting is rubbish. So on the inside, let's try and get into focus a little bit. I've added this wooden clipboard, so if you want to write and then add things in this journal, you can place your paper on here and write. You'll have something nice and hard to write on. And then there's a couple of these inside the journal throughout the Jack the Ripper case, and still ongoing now. There's been suspects into Jack the Ripper. I don't know every single name of every single suspect, but this was one of the suspects, and I just added like a Tim Holtz thing there with a fingerprint chart, which can be journaled on. And then we have another one, and it has the picture of, I think it's Prince Albert, I think it is, and he was another suspect into Jack the Ripper case. But there was quite a lot of suspects in the case. Then we've got this cool image and this piece of cloth which I've stained and added ink on and things like that. And on the inside there's bits of like human anatomy, I can't say it, anatomy, and tools and things like that, because people thought that the killer was thought to be of a medical expert with the way he cut the women up and things like that. So I've just added that in. I'll sort that out after faffing around. So if you can see, I've got all these tags hanging off the pages, and each one has these the victims' names on it. Before I go on, apparently there was probably 8 possible murders from Jack the Ripper. On some web pages and information sites, some say there was 11 possible murders from 1888 to 1891, but they couldn't link the murders to Jack the Ripper. But there's quite a few that have said that there was 8 possible from Jack the Ripper. When I first started making this journal, I read up that there was 5, so I just thought I'll stick with the 5, which I have done. So if anyone's watching this and thinks I've done wrong, I apologise. I'm just going off some of the basic information what I've found. So yeah, so the first victim, let me go through my notes, my research notes, was Mary Ann Nichols, and I've used like a puncher to punch out the names, and it has faded, but you can see, and it says number 1 for victim number 1. And before I carry on looking through these, obviously some people are a bit squeamish with things like this. I will point out now that I have used some of the autopsy pictures and things like that, so they are quite graphic. So if you don't like things like that, then look away, because there is graphic pictures in some of these. So I'd like to think of them as like case folders, and we've got victim 1. So this is just some of the information that I could get hold of. So this is Mary Ann Nichols. She was supposedly the first victim. And then this was an image what was published in a newspaper. And then just another little article that I found. So I've kind of made them into like case pockets. And if anyone is like, you know, mad on Jack the Ripper, and whoever buys this journal, they can obviously find, who know more research than me, can obviously put more things inside. That's entirely up to them. We've got vintage ledger, and then we've got a pocket here with just some journaling cards. I'm not go through every single one because people who watch my videos know. Some more vintage ledger from 1800s, and then I've just done some collaging with random vintage things that I have, and then we have some more random journaling cards. This man was one of the suspects. He was supposedly in the medical profession, but he only dabbled with herbs and things like that. There's quite a lot on about him. And then this is the main man. I've got a bit of information about this guy, who is called James Maybrick. He was a suspect of the Ripper, of being Jack the Ripper. He was married to a lady called Florence, and his wife was having an affair, and people thought, well, should we just say that in 92 a diary was found, which was allegedly known as Jack the Ripper's journal, from a guy in Liverpool. And when all the people have gone through it, like the scientists and people like that, historians, they've done tests, read this, you know, this journal, what was supposedly Jack the Ripper's, and as they've gone through it all, they found out that his wife was having an affair with his friend, I think. So the dates kind of matched up and things like that. They thought that the reason why he did the killing was because his wife betrayed him, and in a way to get back, he would kill and aim for prostitutes. But he used to take arsenic most days, which sadly he ended up dying of arsenic poisoning in 1889 on the 11th of May. his wife was arrested. They thought that she had poisoned him with arsenic. So she was arrested and she was sent to be hung, and apparently from what Florence said, you know, there's no proof and this and the other, she ended up serving so many years in prison and then she was released. But that's a bit of the story on James Maybrick. Some people believe that this journal was a hoax, some still believe it's true, but who knows. So there's just things there, and then there's just some journal. I put a guest check in because apparently James Maybrick, in his diary, what was allegedly his, what he wrote, he would stay at numerous hotels, check in and things like that. So that's why that's put in. This is a letter supposedly from Jack the Ripper. Apparently the police back then got hundreds of letters and things like that, which were hoaxes or some was real off the public. I did a couple of articles in, and obviously there's some of these pictures of London, which I forgot to mention. Back in 1888, London was overcrowded, it was overpopulated due to immigration. There was lots of criminal activity and gangs back then. There was hardly anywhere for people to live. People lived in slums and things like that. There was a high rate of deaths in children. Only 50% of children would live to a certain age because of how poor and things like that it was. It was a hard time. So the crime rate was up and there was a lot of people unemployed. And sadly a lot of women had to turn to prostitution just so they could live. So the second victim is Annie Chapman. I'll go through my notes again. I think Annie Chapman was found on the corner. Let me just look. Was discovered in a backyard. Again, if people are squeamish, there is a couple of images in this one of Annie Chapman. This is the image I got off the internet, and then there's just pictures of the backyard where her body was discovered at 6 AM in the morning. This is when she got married, but I think she later got divorced, and sadly due to the life in London she turned to prostitution. Just some more articles out of newspapers, and then just like an eerie image of Jack. And then another one of these case files, and this is another man who allegedly was a suspect. Again, I haven't written all the names down because there's that many suspects, but he is a real suspect. All the images and things like that are on the internet if anyone is interested. Just another picture of Jack the Ripper, and then just done some collaging and just cut some things off the papers what I found. And then we've got this little like a razor kind of thing. Got some sorry silk ruffle. There's lots of journaling space in this journal, and then these come apart, and then they come up like so, so you can journal on that, journal on that bit on the back side, and then this lovely red velvety envelope. There's nothing inside it, so you could put something secret in it. I'll tie that all up and sort that out after the video. It's got a pocket, and then this is just a spare letter which was from Jack the Ripper, which I put in there because I've got it there instead, a bigger one. And then this is just random bits of tea dyed, coffee dyed, avocado dyed, red cabbage dyed papers what I've had lying around, and just made it into a bit of a, you know, you can journal on that. Vintage ledger. And then just done some more bits of collaging with printing and things like that, and added just some era images of Jack the Ripper. More vintage ledger. Excuse me. And then we have the third victim, which is Elizabeth Stride. Again, if you're squeamish, turn away. This is Elizabeth Stride, and they found Elizabeth Stride's body in an alleyway with a man on a horse. And then just some more old newspaper articles. Let me just go back on Annie. Annie. Oh no. This is from Elizabeth Stride. I'm getting confused. I have written down. Or is it Catherine Eddowes? Let me just check. See, what I've done is on the other victim, Catherine, which we're obviously going on to next, they found her and half of her apron was missing. So I've just added some vintage like lacing, and then just bloodied that up as a bit of evidence. So that just goes in there. But I have done another one previously further down. I was just getting a bit mixed up then. Again, this is another suspect file. This was a lady. Apparently she was a midwife, and she was on the suspect as being like a jealous midwife, and you know, they thought she was a murderer, but there wasn't enough evidence, so obviously released. And then we just got some images of all the women sticking together while the murders were going on. And then just like another image of how the streets used to look. And then just an old newspaper article which I printed off. And then we've just got some 3 pockets, and these are vintage recipe dividers. But yeah, these are all just journaling cards and like an envelope. This is out of a really old book called The Articles, which is like a book full of like really old newspapers. And it dates back from God knows how long. So I just took a snippet out of that. Some sorry silk. Again, this is another different types of papers to journal on. The centre of the second signature, and then I just added some bloodied vintage lace, and then done a lot of collaging, then using white gesso, using different types of inks, making it grungy, adding a bit of blood, and then another era picture of Jack the Ripper. Then we have another journaling card on some black sorry silk with another little lantern there. Homes to hunt Jack the Ripper. This is another letter from Jack the Ripper, and it's the old boss letter. And then we have a map of Whitechapel, and these are all the places where the bodies were found. And then I've added this and made it look a bit vintagey, because when I first started doing this journal, I was I watched a video about the whole diary what they found. So I was basing this journal just on one suspect, which was James Maybrick. And apparently, I think he was from America, and then they came over to England. So this is like an like overseas envelope, and I've just added in like a postcard of London, and then just a blooded up piece of tea-dyed paper. But quite a few of the suspects did travel and go to different places or ended up in America or New York. There is one suspect who people now think probably was the murderer, and he moved to the US and then all the murders stopped. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. The fourth one is Catherine Eddowes. She was found in the alleyway. Look on a piece of paper. She was discovered by a PC policeman, and I think that same night, was it the double murder that night? Gosh, I can't remember. There's that much going through my head, all the information. But anyway, her body was found in the alleyway. Turn away if you're squeamish. I found a bit on... but the one thing that I don't understand is, this is supposed to be Catherine Eddowes, but it says Kate Eddowes, so I don't know why her name was changed. So this is a gruesome image of how she looked. This is a policeman that found her body in the alleyway. I was on the street. But that one, you what number I'm on? Number 4, I think. See, I've got that much going on in my head that I want to tell you, and I'm getting confused. I'm not... Just give me 1 second. Oh, is that the 5th one? Right, yeah. So, just trying to get my head around things. Number 3, I've just done number 3. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's number 5. Oh, I'm getting so confused here. Have I done that one? That's not supposed to go in there. No, I'm getting confused here. Getting confused. Right, yeah, okay. So I think Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes was the double murder that night. That's why I'm getting confused, because I thought there was another one in between, but it's not. This is a 4th victim. And when they found Catherine Eddowes' body, half of her apron had been slashed off with a clean cut, and apparently from finding a body and then an hour or so, there was like a lost hour, because apparently the PC went down looking just looking for, you know, evidence or whatever he was looking for when he found the body. And then within that hour, someone found the half missing apron on the floor. And from what I read, they think that the person who murdered Catherine had taken this apron, either cleaned his hands with it and then came back to the crime scene and dumped it there, or there was another speculation that maybe he had to carry the intestines and things like that back to the place where he was hiding in this apron, and then dumped it back down later on. And apparently there was like a missing hour. But when they found the apron, there was this written on the wall above it: "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Before I get onto that one, this is just like a thing that I did, like a vintage lace, and made that to be a part of the apron. So onto this bit. Obviously this was above the apron, and this time I think it was 6 AM in the morning when they found this, or it might have been 5 AM, and the PC was like, well, you know, people are going to be coming out soon because it's Sunday and the market, and people are coming out and they'll see all this. And apparently one fatal thing that they did was actually wipe this off before the photographer came to take the picture, because apparently it was written down on chalk, written on the wall with chalk, and they didn't want the public to see this. So before the photographer came to take the picture, they, you know, cleaned it all up, which was a fatal mistake, which they shouldn't have done. But apparently one of the police officers had written in his notebook what it actually said, and this is how the Jews were spelt, which is the right way, because there's different ways of spelling Jews. So that was the way that was spelt. And then obviously this is a policeman looking at the writing on the wall, and this is like a policeman and some police news. Whew. Just got a thing here. These remind me of like police little note pocket things, so I've added, there's 2 of these in this journal. I wanted to write 2 clip-on police notes, but my machine that I have, what I make these with, it ran out, and I know that I bought extra of the thingamajigs, what you punch it on, and I cannot find it at all. Then some more journaling cards, done some more collaging with vintage music paper and things like that. Then this is the 5th victim, Mary Ann Kelly, which was one of the most brutal attacks. Don't get me wrong, all these murders were brutal, but hers was very brutal. Again, if you're squeamish, please look away, because there is a couple of images in here that are a bit not very nice, but it did happen. So I'm assuming this is a picture of Mary Ann Kelly. It's been really hard trying to get some of the pictures of them alive, so this isn't a very nice picture. This is how her body was found. This was one of the suspects saying, or suspects or witness was saying that she was seen stood. And this is like another horrible picture, but they're in black and white, so they don't look as graphic, but they're not very nice. They believe that because this was done inside a room where she rented, Jack the Ripper had more time to do this and spend more time on the body, hence why it's so brutal and horrible. Yeah, I've got a vintage ledger. This is another letter what supposedly Jack the Ripper had written to the police. Another newspaper article. Just one of the streets on Whitechapel. Vintage paper, then vintage music paper. Another, there was a reward for Jack the Ripper, and this long piece of paper, I've turned it over onto this side, This is actually dated from the 1800s. And when I got it, it was like on a massive piece of paper, and I've used this quite a lot. The date is not on here, but it was dated from the 1800s. And then another newspaper article, some more journaling cards, another image out of a newspaper. And then we've just got another newspaper article. This is the map. Is it upside down? I think it's just of London itself. Just some vintage journaling index cards. And then this is another letter, supposedly from Jack the Ripper. There's like 2 different tuck pockets on this. And then these are all the envelopes and letters from supposedly Jack the Ripper. And then in some of them have made like little tiny tuck pockets. And then we've got these are real vintage like tickets. And then another image of London. And this is just like an old thing that I had, I had delivered some papers in. I've left it as it is, and then I've just put some Tim Holtz paper at the back. Inside there's another one of them thingies, what's been throughout this journal, another suspect. I'll not undo it all. And then there's another one, and that is H.H. Holmes. He was another suspect, and he got arrested because apparently, God, I'm not even in frame. He did get arrested because that's a different story altogether, which I'm going to read into and maybe do a journal about him. He did some gruesome killings apparently. But yeah, he was another suspect. And then last we've got another journaling tag here. And that's got another razor blade thing on it. And then we've got a little cute ticket. And then if we undo this bit and it's glued together, which it shouldn't have, another reward thing. I just stuck it on to journal on and just tucks away like so, like a secret little journal thing there. And obviously on the back side you can journal on that. There we go. Some more vintage ledger. And then again another suspect. And then just some really old vintage paper that I had from 1911, which has just been grunged up. And then that is the end of my Ripper journal. I hope people who've watched it have enjoyed watching it. I'm sorry that I got a bit lost on track. I've got all this information and more information, and I just wanted to go through it. And obviously if people don't know who Jack the Ripper is, that might have helped. So yeah, thank you for watching. This will be up for sale now. If anyone has, you know, any questions or anything, or want to make a comment or say, oh, you've got that wrong, that's fine. Just leave a note in the comments. Like I say, I'm not an historian, and I have spent quite a lot of time on this journal, reading up about research and things like that. So thank you for watching, and I hope it was okay and I didn't blabber on too much, but thank you for watching and goodbye.